about you, David? Are you getting settled in there in Hollywood?
I'm getting settled in. We are here. I'm really excited to be here.
That's excellent. And I saw one of your videos where you had climbed up the hillside and had that great view of the LA Valley behind you there. So you're getting some new backdrops for some of your videos. That's cool.
Yeah, I went up to the Griffith Observatory, and there's a windy road there. And so now I'm going to start to find more shoot locations, but I just got my place all settled in, just got all my internet back on, and I'm so glad that we're able to do this show for it because we got a big week coming up.
Yeah, we got a major week coming up, and both of us have had kind of a crunch with activities. And, if you go back and look at that last video we did, we were telling people it's going to be a challenging week, but if you just surrender, relax, go with the flow, even the worst of challenges frequently become a good outcome. And I know with me, I had a biopsy on a little spot on my face that had been hanging around for the last 6 months, and it turned out it was, in fact, cancer, but it was very benign, nothing to be worried about. And yesterday I went under the knife, we carved it out, so in 4 or 5 weeks it will be gone and nothing to worry about. And that really is, what this week's content has been like. We have had challenges, but as soon as we allowed ourselves to flow with the universe, we had that beautiful, beautiful outcome.
Yeah, and especially that worry energy, right? I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
Virgo energy can be very worrisome, and now that Mercury's gone out of Virgo and it's been this first week of Mercury in Libra, we're starting to see the brighter side of things, the happier side, but we are about to step into some big squares with Mercury, so I think some of those worries can come back, but I don't think in the same kind of Virgo-esque way like you described. I think we're really starting to have to maybe communicate to relationships, to communicate how we feel, to communicate even in our own selves of maybe there's things to weigh out and maybe it can be complicated and making decisions in the head of maybe what we need to do. I think we're going to step into a lot of decision making, and I'm sure you feel it. Venus is in Scorpio now.
Oh yes, there is an intensity that seems to be growing, and of course, good old Venus likes all three of the water signs. It's very happy in that environment. But as it's continuing to advance, pardon me, we're going to see it create that nice tight sextile to Pluto and Capricorn, and that's going to be, bringing in a little bit of the residue from Chiron and Pisces and Neptune and Pisces. So we're going to start the week out with that slow surge, that slow movement toward Venus-Pluto interaction, and trines and sextiles are usually somewhat benevolent. It depends on the energy. But yeah, we're starting off Friday the 13th. So the people who haven't crawled under their rock out of panic and fear are going to be getting some positive, uplifting vibes from us today.
Yeah, Venus, not only is it, like you said, going to be connecting up with Pluto, it's actually making a perfect trine to Neptune now this weekend. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of, this can be past life relationships, but I think a lot of this has to do with connecting to people, seeing through the veil, seeing if people are real, your guide, your GPS is correct. I think a lot of this is Venus coming closer to Saturn. Venus can feel when Saturn gets close. I know every Libra can feel when they're about to get into trouble. It's so true. Any Venus energy, when it starts to get by Saturn, they definitely don't get along the best. They're very different energies. Saturn's very real, to the point. Venus wants to have mimosas on the beach. And
Mm-hmm.
Venus in Scorpio, there is no bullshit, right? There is no fakeness around. And so with relationships and even what we're manifesting in our life, I think it's bringing us into some very real, sensitive waters that is forcing us to pay attention to the truth and forcing us to make even some decisions with who are we around in our life. I mean, it's intense.
It absolutely is. The other interesting thing is that as we start off this weekend on Friday, we're going to have a really exact trine between Mars and Uranus. And this is another opportunity for us to reinforce the idea that, you know, a lot of astrologers out there, if it's a trine going on anywhere in the heavens, they're all happy, goofy, loving, you know, this is going to be wonderful. You always have to look at the interaction between the planets. Now, a trine between Mars and Uranus opens up an avenue, a channel, so that there's no blockage between those two planets. But Mars can be aggressive, Uranus can be volatile, so this can manifest in a multitude of different ways. So not all trines are benevolent, and you have to look at your own personal chart, figure out where this is happening, and then be prepared, because this kind of energy may show up as, you know, flat tire in the parking lot at Walmart with all of those well-dressed people trying to assist you. I mean, it could show up in a lot of different crazy ways, and you have to be willing to accommodate the interpretation of what's happening in the heavens and make it real in your own personal understanding. The last time Mars trined Uranus, you had had to have an emergency appendectomy. It's like, well, then be mindful during this transit. Make sure that you've got backup. Make sure you're prepared.
Yeah, this is weird energy that comes in, and you're dealing with fire. You're dealing with passion. You're dealing with anger. You know, it's interesting. This can deal with anger. This can deal with Leo energy, which is my heart. I feel this way. And Aries energy is very stubborn, hard-headed as well. So you've got all this like, this is what I want. And guess what? Mercury in Libra is through an incredible square with Pluto this weekend, which means things need to come out. You know, you need to express how you feel. You need to say what you need to say. You need to, this is about justice, fairness. And when you're dealing that with all this energy, I think, and as Venus is getting closer to Saturn, this is the weekend that's leading towards, I think, a complete chessboard realignment with who are our allies in our life, who is not, who is on this team. What do we, how do you feel? Is that fair? Is that not fair? Your ideas change about life this weekend, about who. Oh, this is pretty crazy.
Well, exactly. And with this kind of interactive energy going on, that mercurial energy could very much show up as somebody going off on you. And then you have the complete revelation, oh, this is what they were thinking about me for the last 10 years or the last 6 months or whatever. But it actually is a good thing because it removes the veil. So you are going to have more clarity after this weekend about what people's real thoughts are about you.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think that's how you can live better, because this gets rid of anything. I think especially as Venus trines Neptune, that's what Neptune's trying to do, is purify our relationships by exposing the truth. And Mercury, it's forced us to get over our fears of maybe how we want to express our communication, or maybe these fears inside of our head that need to be released. And this is the finishing up the sun in Virgo, which is this reality of reorganizing our lives in the right way. So, and this is the last, 10 degrees of it. So this is the final round. This is the final week and a half here of getting your life in order, getting things together. And Mars and Leo wants to charge into the direction of our own individual heart's desires, right? And, Venus really, if you think about it, is going to come up and square this Mars energy. And plus, Mars has been squaring both nodes in fixed signs, which is very stubborn. This is everybody, rubbing elbows and getting in their spot that they want.
Yeah, and the elevator will get crowded over the weekend. And as we move, further into the week, then we've got Jupiter sitting over there that's kind of a little bit offline over the weekend. It's not really doing too much, but then we're going to have that activity of Venus acting in square to Jupiter, in trine to Jupiter. So we've got the Cancerian Jupiterian energy that's going to get a surge midweek from Venus as it first crosses over Saturn and then continues to advance. So there's going to be some interesting energy there going on with relationships where things that were not revealed are going to become very obvious, again, partly because of the mercurial influence, but also it's going to kind of try to finish up a lot of lessons that we need to be working on right now, as far as how we relate to people and how we allow things to get out of control in our lives. Because Jupiter wants to expand things, Venus wants to feel good, and so we're going to see midweek, and there could be some real crisis in relationships coming up because of a trine.
That, and I mean, well, let's be honest. Monday on the 16th, Mercury opposes Uranus exactly. Then you've got the moon in Aquarius through this transit, which can really add the electricity, and it's going to oppose Mars. And there's all this energy happening. Like, I think that this weekend, Sunday, Monday can really be those 2 days that really let a lot of this stuff out. And then, you know, it is this midweek, like you bring about with the trines and Venus coming to conjunct Saturn and the node, which is going to have the moon square all this stuff on that Sunday, Monday. I think that Sunday, Monday mark, you really, the unpredictable stuff could happen. And of course, that's leading right into your week, which really can adjust people's whole entire lives. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets kicked out of their house this week and they're having to find their own place. I mean, that's just like the worst of it. But, you know, it's that like it's out of nowhere. I'd be prepared for anything.
Yeah, it is definitely a surprise weekend. Not one that is going to be filled with a lot of angst and dread, but it's almost like a release. You know, if you do get kicked out of your house, you're going to wake up the following morning in your car or wherever at the homeless shelter and realize, damn, that's the best thing that's happened to me in the last 10 years, because I needed to move on. I was too damn comfortable there. I turned into a slug. I was a couch potato, and I wasn't doing my work. So whatever you're forced to accommodate this coming week is actually going to be something that you've been in resistance to, and the universe is saying, okay, we're at that point where you've got to move on.
Yeah. And that's Mars Uranus. I think that's freedom.
Yes.
It's just, there's a revelation. I think there could be a lot of fun this weekend. Don't get me wrong. I think in the middle of all this, gosh, you know, you could be at one of the best parties of your life, or you could be, you know, having a blast. I think there's an ability that wants to have a blast, especially if you're really living in that truth, you know. So it's exposing the stuff that needs to be exposed, but it's also about connecting to the stuff that you know you want to connect with. And so that can be very rewarding, as on the flip side of this coin, in relationships, you can be like, wow, you know, she or he really does want to go all the way with me, and we do really want to do this. These can build relationships that last a lifetime, or at least 30 years, right? Until maybe Saturn conjuncts this energy again and you make a new decision. But, you know, this breakthrough this weekend and maybe getting rid of people can also build the right alliances for the right people, just as powerful as the opposite side of the coin.
Oh, exactly. And that really is the whole core of everything that's going on in the universe around us, is resolving duality. You know, you've always got the other side of the coin that you ignore, but you should pay attention to, because that's when it's going to appear in your life and say, hey, you know, we're going to redirect things. And, you know, I'm noticing as we move into Tuesday, we're going to be having the moon advance into Pisces. And it's going to conjunct Neptune. And for some reason, I intuitively feel like this is going to be a very intense interaction of the planets, because then as it continues to progress, it's going to, you know, have an activity with first Saturn, then Jupiter, and Venus, and the nodes. And I really feel like this Neptunian influence midweek is something that people need to be aware of. This is a bad time for any kind of drugs, any kind of, you know, getting out of control with your drinking, stuff like that, because it really is going to be an opening here, especially with Jupiter in the mix there, as the moon continues to progress, for you to experience an altered reality that loops you into things that have a long-term effect. So I would say midweek, be very cautious about what you're drinking, what you're consuming, give yourself a little bit of a diet.
Big time, because Saturn and Pluto are now in their sextile during this full moon in Pisces, because really this is a
Right.
full moon in Pisces, and
Exactly.
Venus is exactly on the node and Saturn during the full moon at 8
Yep.
degrees. So
Right.
everything is clicking into gear here. It all leads towards this peak moment on Wednesday, really. I mean, Wednesday into Thursday is like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's this midweek that is like a holy, holy, holy moment. Holy, right? Very Piscean.
Mm-hmm.
To really, I think on the flip side, can really bring forth the spiritual energy. But you're right. People can get, especially with Saturn and Pluto, you don't want to mess around. You know, you don't want to mess around with Saturn and Pluto, and with the node on Saturn, you know, this is a time where work is involved, restructuring your life, living in your truth, your desires. And with Venus here, this is the decision-making aspect of whether or not you're going to part the Red Sea or not. I think that it all leads to this full moon. And a full moon, more than just drinking or drugs, could also be where it's like, you know they're cheating on you, but don't emotionally get lost again and to go back into the relationship. Like, you got to part your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this full moon will be occurring during the day on Thursday. It's going to be at 27 degrees of Pisces, and I think that that's going to create a very interesting, like, final passage for the Virgo people. You know, at Virgo time, it has its full moon. It has everything come to fruition, and then we're going to be ready to advance forward into Libra time, and things are going to calm down quite a bit for a lot of people. But this last 3-4 degrees of Virgo this year is going to be an intense passage, not only for Virgos, but for all the earth signs and the water signs.
Yeah, it's a passage for a lot of water signs because there's so much Scorpio energy and Pisces energy playing, and Cancer. This is all, I call it a portal, you know, this like portal coming into all of our lives of people. I mean, it really has to do with people, but let's look at the other side of Venus, which is manifestation, money too, money, 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 money. You know, it can really be interesting with money. I think the markets too are going to really play into this. I also predicted, because it's so intense in my webinar, I predicted that solar flares. I think whenever you start to see so much activity in the astrology, usually the sun gets involved too with a lot of, you know, crazy activity. And I think we're about to start to see some more solar activity in this week. I think it's going to build this energy. I think.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's going to start now, and it's going to run through December. You know, and we're going to end up going from the equinox into the solstice this year with a lot of energy being, where the Earth is going to be bathed with a lot of energy. And how we use that energy is really going to be a determining factor in where we ultimately arrive at when the new year comes. So this final 3-month passage is going to be very interesting, very much an empowering cycle. But it's also going to be a period when we need to be very mindful of what's going on around us.
Yeah, we have to be, because Mercury, again, mindful. During this full moon, we have Mercury squaring Jupiter exactly as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, our ideas of things are going to change quite a bit, I think, this week. You know, one minute you're here, the next minute you're on the other side. And it's so funny that we're talking about the flip side of coins, because that's very like Libra. You got to look at both sides.
Absolutely,
so we're going to see both sides, I think, play out in all of our lives. I don't think it's going to be very one-sided. I don't think you're going to see somebody going through it one way and another person going through the other. Maybe you'll see it that way, but 2 days later they switch sides, you know, and you're like, now they're doing this and now that's happening to them. You know, I think it really it switches. But one problem with Mercury and Jupiter is we could go too far with our thoughts, you know, we could say too much. And with this full moon in Pisces, which is very it's very magical, right? It's very it can really lose you. You can get lost, and then your mind could be overly, you know, put in the wrong position. You know, it's this, I think, the Venus-Saturn energy and the node in Venus and Saturn energy and Scorpio and this Pluto energy you got to pay attention to get you through this. I think this is all about, you know, playing the right plans for your life based off plans, based off commitments to truth, and not getting lost in any hoopla or, you know, any rash decision making. I think this week, with your mind messed up and in Libra, you know, as it's weighing things out, I think you want to pay attention to the decisions you make this week and not get lost, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in making wrong decisions at the last minute.
Yeah, it definitely has that edge to it. And again, whenever anything's happening in Pisces, because we've got good old Neptune in there, it's adding more juice. So more illusion, more delusion, and you know, and then you end up trying to resolve things that you don't even fully understand because you can't remember what happened. And that's kind of scary.
I think it's great you brought up television. I think, yeah, TV this week could really paint a nice illusion for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely
we could be washed over completely on some other event or something else going on. And with Mercury squaring Jupiter, there could be some really big news this week that could be misleading as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, this whole Syrian mess could very well turn out to be, you know, multiple flip-flops. We don't know what the hell is happening. Conspiracies going on all over the place, and this would be the week when something significant could very well occur in the Middle East.
What about the storms? You know, I just saw there was a big Denver storm, and Mercury, I always associate Mercury a lot with weather too, because it's fast moving, and whenever we had this, you know, cardinal cross energy last time with Venus, you know, that was some weird energy, and we're about to go through it starting this weekend with Mercury, and it's going to go through it all week. Mercury goes through all of these pressure points from the day we're speaking for tomorrow or today, right, Friday, all the way to next week. So this week is going to be completely, I hate to say it, but a mess in many ways. It's not going to go exactly to plan. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy going. I mean, it could be great, but it's going to be very up, down, left, right. You know, it's a kind of like turbulence on an airplane. You know?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, and the beauty of it though is if you again get into that space of surrender, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
If you are trying to wrestle control out of the hands of the universe, you're going to get snot knocked out of you, to put it very graphically. So it is going to be an interesting period.
It's like that movie Airplane, you know? Like, just go with it.
Right. Let it happen. Because yeah, I know with me yesterday I was traveling and I'm already feeling the influence, I being a Pisces, I'm already feeling the influence of this coming week. And I got ready to head back down from Wisconsin back into Illinois, and I lost my transmission basically, and all it was just fluids blew out, and the car is going to be fine, but it caused me to have to restructure my evening and restructure the coming day, and you know, and it really throws you out of sync. And this is again the activity of Mars in trine to Uranus, sudden disruption, sudden unexpected events, and I just, you know, went with it. I just relaxed, and I looked around and looked specifically for things to be thankful for, and everything's turning out beautifully. And that's another secret: is always try to find something to be thankful for. When you're under pressure, when you're feeling blocked, when you're unhappy, look around and be thankful for something in your environment.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Gratitude is the attitude, and this comes into attitudes for peace of mind. Mercury is your attitude station, and in Libra, you've got to have a very beautiful attitude, and when it's under stress, it can make disruption, and attitude is your only way to have gratitude. It's not easy to be in a place of gratitude when you're upset or you're in a place of anger, you know, that this week will test you to see how well you handle pressure in your mind. I think this has to do with our minds. I think it has to do with our attitudes. It has to do
our
about
memories.
Yeah, it's weird. And when you're dealing with Mars and Mercury with Uranus, right? Woo! That's fast-moving, intense stuff. Like,
right.
yeah, you know, and But the good news is Saturn and Pluto finally back together, right? And I think that that is bridging that we're okay in the background of all this, that there are pillars holding us again, you know? So,
Well, Saturn is the great teacher, and so we're going to be learning a lot from this coming week. Saturn loves to teach, and if you're willing to learn, you're going to learn some very, very important insights.
yeah, and I'll just end it with this, and then I can't wait to see the cards. You know what? If you're holding on to some secrets or you're lying, it's going to be exposed this week. So I'd stop that lying. You might be able to reboot it, although I'm not trying to like give you guys the inside on that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to say is like it's going to come out. Everything's going to come out this week in your relationships. So be prepared.
Yes, and that can be professional. It could be romantic. It could be your relationship with yourself. Oh my God, we have those too. Well, for the weekend, we have got the Chariot. And of course, you know, when you really stop and think about this, this is the duality we were talking about. The white horse is wanting to head off to the left. The black horse is wanting to head off to the right. And the charioteer has to reconcile those two energies. So we're going to start off the weekend with reconciliation, trying to get, you know, all of the forces to work together. And there are a lot of forces at play as we start to move into the weekend. So you're going to see a lot of juggling that you're going to have to accommodate. But then midpoint through the weekend, look at that, we have the World card. And this is your vision of reality. This is looking at a bigger picture of what life could possibly be, and then allowing yourself to participate in that bigger life. So this is very Jupiterian. And it also is very Plutonian because Pluto figures into, you know, all the various generations and how we relate to each other. So that's going to be a strong vibe on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. As we hit the midpoint and the full moon, it is worker bee time. You will be harvesting the rewards of your efforts. The grape is manifesting on the bough. The apple is ready to be plucked. So this full moon could be very, very profitable for you, either financially, emotionally. There are rewards to be found in this full moon as it arrives. And then as we come to the end of the week, how appropriate is this? The Justice card, Libra energy coming back around and balancing everything out. So the cards are giving us a great week ahead. And again, you know, even though there are edgy elements, if we work with the elements, we will definitely come out feeling very, very successful.
Wow, and you pulled 3 major arcana cards out of 4.
Well, it's full moon, you know, and that frequently, that's the way full moons come up because it is pretty heavy energy. Like Dire Straits, you know, Mark Knopfler used to sing about heavy, heavy fuel. I'm running on a heavy, heavy fuel.
Yeah. No, and you know, you pulled the Justice card at the very end of Venus and Saturn conjunct, which is the boom, boom, boom of the epitome of all these relationships coming to this crossroads again, at the end of this week. And you pulled the Chariot, which coming into this week, I mean, it's very, you can make it through though. That's the thing. It's an adventure, so it's exciting. And I think that goes with the Uranus energy because that Chariot likes to be out of the city in a way. Like it would rather almost be on those weird spiritual horses and trail and Pharaoh, or it's the Sphinx in the other decks, you know. It's like very ancient, pulling you into it's Indiana Jones card, I call it. So we're all kind of digging for the artifacts of our life beginning this week, and what we come out with is going to be with some people. And you know Indiana Jones always runs out with a different girl every adventure. So
well, in the last one, he came back to the original girl, which was a good thing.
Oh, see, I haven't seen the last one yet.
Oh, you've got to check out the Crystal Skull. It's a great romp.
Oh.
And of course, the special effects are good.
Wow. Well, I mean, I can't wait to see how everybody feels. You know, thanks for everybody for getting a hold of us on the last couple videos. We've gotten a great response, and we'd love to hear everybody's response because we're all into this together.
Absolutely, yeah. And, not only do we appreciate your response, but we really, really, really appreciate when you share these videos, because the whole point of this is to get everybody that you know, everybody that's around you, to that threshold where they're starting to look beyond the mundane and the day-to-day world. So that's what David and I are trying to present to you. It's a higher vision of what life can possibly be.
Yeah, and thank you, man. I love all those cards today, and I loved all your insights on this, because this is a very special week, because also the node is on Saturn, and
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is, I look at it as concrete, and I think there's concrete being poured, and concrete dries quick. So we have got a lot of adjusting, a lot of structuring. It's time to be responsible. It's time to put the work in. And Jupiter in Cancer doesn't want to work much. It wants to lay on the couch and hang out and feel good and eat bonbons. But this energy on Scorpio, Saturn, and all this intense energy around Pluto and Saturn this week. And guess what is also happening when we step into the beginning of next week's show? Pluto goes direct on Friday next week.
Yes, thank God.
So talk about what this week leads to. Next week is the launch of, like, wow,
Yes, and then it definitely will fit with the equinox on the horizon.
I know. Yeah, next week's
so
show is just as killer.
Yeah, it's going to be juicy. So people, you got to stop back for next week.
Yeah. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, and we'll tune in with you next week.
Yes, looking forward to it. You have a great week, David.
You too. Bye.